Okay, let me get my game face back on. Apparently, this is my game face. Hi, my name is Nicholas Caponis, and we are here with Sofia Quijano to host another Close Encounters episode with our very, very special guest. Maybe you can introduce yourself for us so that everyone knows who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hi, my name is Harry Cherrin, and I am the baritone saxophonist of the Amstel Quartet. We're a saxophone quartet based in the Netherlands, and I myself am American, but I've been living in the Netherlands since 2006, so for quite a long time.
Well, what kind of music do the four of you play?
Well, we're officially a classical saxophone quartet. A saxophone quartet is a sort of typical newer classical ensemble, like a string quartet or a piano trio. But we don't only play classical music. The saxophone is a newer instrument, so a lot of the music that we play is modern, at least in terms of classical music, but then also some things that are with electronics, more minimalism, things with pop music. It's a very flexible ensemble. So technically it's classical. We're a classical ensemble, but we do a huge variety of genres and styles. We're all fans of different kinds of music, so we try to bring that into the group.
Well, I think that makes it great because you can collaborate with a number of musicians. It's really flexible on what you can really do on stage.
Absolutely. Yeah, with the project with Anass, for example, with this with our Moroccan friend who sings with us, we're kind of an accompanying band, and we do that type of thing with another singer as well, a French chanson singer. So that's a really different role. But then other times we're just playing as a quartet. We do things, like I said, with electronics. Well, we're using electronics ourselves, iwis, which are like saxophone synthesizers, and we're playing with electronics, electronic keyboards. So,
well, I think it's really, really sick. And you guys are going to be coming to the Ithra Theater
That's
soon.
right. Yes, yeah. We're coming with Anass to do Stories of the Soul, which is a program entirely of Arabic songs. And we're coming at the end of August to Ithra, and I think I understood we're doing 3 concerts, but I'm not totally sure if that's still the case. But we're doing at least 1 concert for sure with Anass.
How do you feel about going to perform at Ithra? Are you excited? Are you nervous?
I'm excited. I've only been a few very short trips to the Middle East in general, and always with the quartet that we played a few years ago in Kuwait and in Dubai. And that was, for me, the first time in that part of the world. It was really interesting and really beautiful experience. And especially since it's sort of, the Western classical music is still a relatively new thing there. You really feel that this is like the people are kind of hungry for this type of experience, which is maybe not traditionally part of their world, but now it's becoming something that they have their Western classical concerts. So you really feel that it's something interesting and new for people there.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up, or were you always on the path to becoming a musician?
Not at all, no. My family is not particularly musical. I played saxophone from when I was 9, but just in the school band, and I wasn't super serious about it really until the end of high school. And most of my childhood, I wanted to be an artist. I drew a lot, and I was really into comic books, and I made my own comic books. And later on, I got kind of more into like illustration. But I did that really, really heavily up until when I was maybe about 16 or so, and then I got serious about saxophone, and I stopped drawing almost entirely. And now I doodle for fun sometimes still, but I switched over to music, and that took all of my attention.
It's actually really interesting because I wanted to be a singer for the longest time when I was younger, but now I want to be a animator. Well, not animator, but director for animated movies, and I've switched from singing and music to art entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a high school teacher also, and a lot of my students that are into music, when they get to a little bit older, 14, 15, 16, the kids that are into music are also into drama or into art or into media or that. So yeah, I was into all that stuff as well. And then the balance kind of changed at a certain point.
So you're in a saxophone quartet, which is a lot of saxophones. What intrigued you about the saxophone over, let's say, the piano or trumpet or anything, really?
I mean, the saxophone itself, I really actively wanted to play it when I was 8 or 9 or so when I started. And that's basically because I was a very young child in the 80s. And in the 80s, like every pop song had a saxophone solo in it. And there was, there's even a particular song. It's by a band called In Excess, which I don't know if anyone remembers anymore. But they had a big tenor saxophone solo in it, just a really rock and roll 80s saxophone solo. And I couldn't stop listening to it. I was obsessed with it. So I wanted to play saxophone. And yeah, that was it. It just seemed cool to me.
I still think it's cool. If that,
I do too.
Yeah,
it kind of comes and goes.
My friend, she learned the saxophone, and when I hear her play, it's like she got really, really good, and she just really loves playing, and it's really nice to hear too. Hear.
How long has she played?
We started back in I think it was 6th grade. We had a school, we were required to learn an instrument and band, and she learned the saxophone. So I think I'm in 9th grade now, 3 years. But she's already really good. She spends all her free time doing that.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, when you're that age, you're like a sponge for information. So you get good quick. Good for her.
So your most recent CD is dedicated to the work of Latvian neoclassical composer George Pelecis. What about his work intrigued you to create a whole CD inspired by his art?
Yeah, I think the short answer is the simplicity. It's where we're maybe even a little bit known for playing like really complicated, difficult music, and his music is very simplicity. It's sometimes it's part of this new simplicity movement, sort of like Arvo Pärt, where the music is very tonal, almost meditative sometimes. Technically not very difficult, not a lot of fast-moving notes, but it kind of requires you as a quartet to work on your balance and your musical communication with each other, and really play things at like a super refined level. Because like if you're playing kind of crazy music, we try to play perfectly, but if you make a little mistake, it's not so noticeable. But this music is so kind of just bare and simple that if anything is not perfectly in tune or perfectly balanced, then it doesn't work. So we started working on it during one of the COVID. I think we actually recorded it also during the COVID lockdown. The whole thing happened more or less during COVID. So it was kind of it was a good sort of almost like a spiritual exercise, because like the music is really about playing together. It's about coming together and communicating this musical idea, and not about showing off, not about playing impressive things. And we're of course in this period where we went sometimes months where we couldn't see each other or play together. So then when we finally could get together and do that, that was really appealing. And I think it really, it really comes out in the music that maybe we were like desperate just to make music together.
How do you emulate the sound of a cello on the saxophone?
Yeah, good question.
That's such a weird question, but I was just wondering because like you're observing that part since it's relevant to yours, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of nuances do you listen for in order to to try to do it the same way on your instrument?
There's a lot. I mean, there's the one level of how they fit into the ensemble and how flexible string instruments are. String instruments are so dynamic that they can switch from being accompaniment to melody so quickly. But I mean, I think I've gotten the comment before that it sounds like a cello in the saxophone quartet. Like within the saxophone quartet, they'll say that my sound sounds like a cello. I'm not super conscious of what it is. I mean, I think there's certain saxophone habits that you have to unlearn, like just in the way that you articulate notes and the way that you do vibrato. It's maybe just subtly different. And I never really took it apart like consciously, but I just would play it over and play things over and over again until it never really sounded like a cello, but just that the vibrato sounded maybe more cello like or more string like. So it's not like it's like being influenced to just like I think in anything is if you listen to a musician that you admire. A lot of jazz musicians, they'll transcribe solos from players and try to get their sound. So I think that I just did that a lot with string quartet things, and that just evolved kind of from doing that.
My favorite unserious question isn't on here, but can I ask it anyways?
Go for it.
What is the worst style choice you have ever made for any performance that like you're going to perform in front of a live audience?
Ooh, that's a good question. The quartet, we wear sometimes kind of crazy costumes, sort of for a classical group, crazy costumes, but it looks good because we're all wearing the same thing. So my own personal, I mean, I think the general answer is that there have been lots of concerts where I wasn't prepared or expecting how hot it was going to be once people got into the room. So that I wore something that looked, and actually I remember one in particular. I used to do solo saxophone concerts where I played Bach solo pieces, and I did one once in a cafe, and I had like my nice suit and tie and everything, and this was this like totally glass front of the cafe, and it was probably around this time of year, sun pouring in, and it was like 30 plus degrees Celsius in this place, and I just was absolutely, it looked like I'd run a marathon. It was horrible. So it looked good at the start of the concert. It was a nice suit. It looked good, but it was a terrible fashion choice, and I regretted it.
Someone had to bring in the bucket afterwards for you.
Exactly. Yeah, there was like a small puddle where I had been standing.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you, and an even greater pleasure to have you here with us at Close Encounters. And we look forward to seeing everyone here next time.